I'm Alan Whittaker. I'm Program Manager for Supply Chain Northeast, and Sarah Pavlou is Program Manager for Scaleup Northeast. I'll give you a quick intro to myself and my background, pass you on to Sarah, then we'll cover some of the programs which we deliver at RTC North. So I'm an engineer, I'm a graduate engineer. I've got a background. I've worked in business support on a number of programs in the offshore wind, in the manufacturing sector, and as a management consultant for approaching 20 years now. Before working in business support, I worked in various manufacturing companies in operations management in a tier one Japanese automotive company. I've worked in fast moving consumer goods and heavy engineering. Sarah, do you want to give a quick intro, please?
I can, yes. So weirdly enough, my background's nothing to do with business support. So the business support world's been new to me in the last 2 years, but I'm actually by trade a retailer. And I used to open large tier one retailers overseas. So people like your Debenhams, which is not doing so well now. People like Hamleys, New Look, Next. And I lived overseas for 15 years. So used to do a lot of retail franchise expansion in a nutshell is my background.
Okay, and we're going to give you a brief intro to some of the RTC North programs, and maybe there are some linkages with the STEM agenda in general. Sarah and I are fortunate to work with wonderful STEM people at RTC North. We get invited quite a lot to actually be part of their events, and some really, really good events which they run periodically throughout the year, involving some blue chip organisations and some small organisations and some good people. I think the most recent example for me was there was an event, STEM-tastic, at Port of Blythe last year, encouraging students on the opportunities within the renewable sector. And I think they were all blown away by, what is happening in the northeast of England, supporting the renewable sector in and around the Port of Tyne, the Port of Tees, and some exciting opportunities to look at, using the sort of right energy technologies which are environmentally friendly, for example, offshore wind. So enough of that. I'll cover now Supply Chain Northeast. Supply Chain Northeast, as it says in the wording, basically we're working with companies, SMEs predominantly in the Northeast Leb area, to understand where they are now and understand their appetite to grow and diversify within supply chains. So they may be servicing or supporting one or two sectors now, and maybe they've got skill and capability to enter new sectors, or they may want to grow in their existing sectors. And what Supply Chain Northeast is about is identifying potential opportunities, engaging with the OEMs, tier ones, but also, organisations which are delivering exciting projects, and identifying opportunities for Northeastern businesses to be part of that supply chain. And that can be in a number of ways. We can actually carry out diagnostic visits where we understand what the business is doing and carry out a gap analysis. We can engage with good third-party consultants, which I guess Steve and Tama do a lot of that work, which was brilliant. We can support that. Maybe if the need is that the barrier to entry to get into the area they want to be is actually they don't have the relevant accreditation, we can help develop marketing, sales strategies for growth. And we also have some small capital available to enable companies to go gear up with the right equipment, which then can help them start to be able to present the cases for the products and services which they want to offer to the sector. The exciting thing for me in the link to supply chain and the STEM is that, I think it was highlighted earlier that we don't know the technologies of tomorrow, and we want to do things bigger, faster, quicker. So we've got to harness technology, and clearly the school children of this day and age will be the engineers of the future, using the technology and actually getting us the benefits within the UK and the Northeast. So that's supply chain. Sarah, do you want to cover Scaleup?
Can do, yeah. Just to add to the from the STEM angle, I'm actually a STEM ambassador myself, and just to add to some of the comments that have been made, one of the interesting things for me from a business perspective is knowing your market of tomorrow as well as giving these kids an understanding the future jobs. What's also really, really important from an SME's point of view is understanding your new customer. So one of the things we do a lot of in Scaleup as a business is scaling, they can't always afford, the best people at, like, let's say, a marketing level. And what a lot of them are now asking, particularly now more than ever, is can we get young people in? And I think probably a perfect example to us at RTC ourselves would be a girl who works with us called Rachel Town, who we brought in is probably, I would say, team, are we right? She's probably one of the youngest out of us old folk. And an incredible whiz in terms of technology and this type of thing, and essentially educates us older lot of the future. And I think that's a really important point. It's one thing that we're doing now in Scaleup. So particularly now when we've hit COVID, a lot of our scaling businesses are either sort of surviving the situation at the moment and are saying, well, we may not necessarily want to invest in high employment, but we do want to educate the next generation and get them involved. So I think that's another great thing. One of the things I particularly enjoyed from being a STEM ambassador was helping these young people realise the opportunities out there. They don't always know, and then their parents don't always help them. They don't always give them the confidence. So I think there's a lot to be, I mean, I could talk for hours about STEM because I'm deeply passionate about young people and giving back to the next generation. But just keep to our Scaleup. So what Scaleup does is very similar to supply chain in the sense of the offer that we provide. Probably the USP that essentially what Scaleup was set up to do was to increase the number of scaling businesses in our region by 50%. It was also to drive 1,400 new jobs in the region. And as you can imagine, COVID hasn't helped any of us, to say the least. However, we have got some incredible companies out there. And what our team do is the team are made up of individuals who've actually scaled their own businesses. So where they become probably the biggest demand from them is the peer-to-peer support. It's that sort of almost non-exec director that people are getting for nothing. It's that sounding board. It's that second set of ears. It tends to be our biggest demand. The two key areas in scaling businesses that are of greatest concern, most people would think it's cash. And yes, it's always, money's always a challenge for every business. But more importantly, we get a huge amount around leadership and accessing the right talent, which sits so perfectly with STEM, which is why we always encourage our businesses to reach out to STEM, to become an ambassador. We're doing a big plug around that at the moment, actually, to work with our team to promote that out to the SME market, to say by being a support to the young people, in turn, these young people are in turn going to help you develop what your future business looks like. So again, like Alan mentioned, we cover all different areas. The 5 main barriers to scaling a business tend to be leadership and talent and skills, the cash, obviously, access to new markets and customers, and infrastructure. We get many people that are growing, but there's a difference between the growing and scaling. Often the infrastructure is not ready, which is a lot of what I did in retail, where you took a brand that might have had 20 people in their head office and had 4 stores and suddenly had 35 international stores, but they didn't back up their infrastructure. So what the teams do is they do one-to-one advisory, so they'll sit and do one-to-one. They might also encourage some of these businesses to join events and workshops. And this is where, again, we'll cross across RTC in all various capacities to link in, not only the talent that we've got inside RTC, but in turn, probably one of the big key factors is the networks everybody has in RTC. I think that's probably one of the strongest elements, is I sort of say it's a font of knowledge. So yeah, and again, like supply chain, we've got revenue and capital grants which do support the businesses. My pot's gone, so I do apologise. We have no money from me at the moment, but we will later in the year. But all of these things are our investment in the SME community to help you grow. And that's us from Scaleup.
I guess from me, you may ask the question, how did COVID impact on supply chain and the opportunity to grow supply chains? And yes, a number of projects, for example, Metro Futures projects, have been stalled. However, the COVID crisis helped us work remotely, use technology, work with companies to develop novel solutions to address the COVID crisis, and maybe then get companies to consider localizing their supply chain, understanding the total cost of the supply chain. And if we shorten the supply chain, is it more beneficial and more environmentally friendly? So that's, in a nutshell, supply chain and Scaleup. We have other complementary programs within RTC North. One of them is the Innovate to Succeed program, where we have a team of experts who work with organizations to understand the opportunities to harness innovation within their products and processes, to develop and enhance their products and services, and maybe then linking into the Enterprise Europe network, maybe internationalise their products and identify international partners, which again is more Sarah's bag. So do you want to cover Ian?
I can, yeah. So what's interesting as well, if you go back to the sort of the innovation side of this idea generation, I can give you a very brief example of one client we talked to who works in the world of retail and malls. And as all of you will know, the mall industry is on its knees at the moment. And primarily because people want new experiences. And one of the things we suggested to them was to start talking to the young people, start engaging with the 12, the 13, the 14-year-olds that are shopping. How do they shop? Where do they shop? How can you, encourage them to come in? And I think, again, that's for me where education, young people and business really need to marry together from the innovation to get the ideas from your next future customer. So like Alan said, we've got the Innovate to Succeed program, which obviously is developing all the idea generation to get new products and services to market or in the firm. But equally, we have an international arm. And this program I used to run before Scaleup. And essentially, we call it the business dating site, to be quite simple and straightforward. So what we do there is we build you a profile of your business. So if we take, for example, one that I've just recently done is a language franchise. And what we essentially do is we put together a profile of your business, and it goes out onto our central portal that reaches out to 600 companies like RTC in 65 different countries. I mean, the networks are superb. What they then do is they then receive that, what they call the expression of interest of somebody's looking for a partner, or it could be in the case of supply chain, for example, might be looking for a part in the engineering world, for example, or looking for a supplier or whatever it might be. And what happens is those businesses then reach out to their networks and their SMEs and say, is anybody interested in this, or can anyone help this company? They then ping that back to us, and it's all kept without the names being, so it's all anonymous at this stage. And the reason for that is so that we can manage the influx of inquiries. What we don't want is our business being inundated with, things that are not necessarily true, or people are not who they say they are, and that type of thing. So we sort of filter it for you. And then essentially what we do from there is to say, look, we've had an interest from this country and these people. Would you like an introduction? And it's fantastic. So we've had people start working together from all parts of the world. And that's what the EEN portal's main objective is to help you find partners and work on a global level.